Okay guys, I'm going to do my utmost to try to keep this short, but I'm going to be honest up front, it probably won't be, and this is going to be part 1 of 3, because there's no way I'm going to be able to get even just where we are, how we got here, and how we're going to get out of this mess into one video. So I'm nutshelling the first 2 drastically, and I'm going to try to nutshell the third one as well. The third one is going to be the bulk of this video. The other 2 are going to get their own, and I'm going to go about this backwards because I think it might make more sense that way. So for now, the nutshell of where we are. This is a Worldometer site. I'm sure you guys have all seen this. This is basically refreshed. Yeah, so I was refreshed. Okay, this is entire world data. They've now updated it so that most countries have their own site as well. You'll notice that I believe it's 9 o'clock our time here in Ottawa that this changes over to the next day. But you can go back to yesterday's numbers and get a full set as well. I again would caution that keep in mind when comparing numbers from country to country that every country has slightly different reporting procedures as well as rather drastically different testing procedures as well as strategies for how to deal with the pandemic situation. So keep those in mind when doing any comparisons. The other thing I'm going to point out is now that we have multiple pages for different countries, this info, so our total cases, total deaths, active cases, and closed cases exists for all countries as well, and that gives us access to logarithmic charts for each country as well as for the world at large. I'll get into a lot more of that in the next 2 videos that will get into the details of how to read these type graphs and why these lines are getting a little bit frightening, although they do show the littlest bit of hope in what I'm hoping is an end to that curve. Okay, or at least a slowdown. So how we got here, the normal story of how humanity gets into any of its major problems. We notice there's a problem, we notice that the problem might get here, and we decided we would deal with the problem when and if it got here, and now it got here. So we're going to deal with how we're going to get out of this mess. And the first idea I'm going to float is a little bit of a mind shift in how we're looking at this problem. Because we're looking at an enemy to fight, but it might be a little better if we start looking at it like this, that the virus doesn't spread because it's not a thinking thing. It's people that spread the virus. The virus is just RNA. It doesn't have a brain, so it doesn't have tactics. It's not after us. It's not really an enemy so much as it's a burr. We've all run across burrs before, those of us with pets a lot more than others, and this virus is a microscopic burr. We've all seen the picture. It's just a little bubble of RNA with little tiny hooks on the end that look like crowns, so that's why it's a coronavirus. The thing is essentially a burr. We know how to deal with burrs. We avoid them if we can. So if you see someone with symptoms, you avoid them. We clean what we can't avoid. So we have to wash our hands. We have to clean our surfaces, clean our cell phones, clean anything that could be carrying those little seeds. And in the process of those 2, we make sure that it doesn't get to soil because we don't want that seed to grow and reproduce. And in this particular instance, the only soil that this particular seed can use is our lungs. So we actually have a fair amount of control in this. If we can block it from our lungs, we've essentially won that battle. So our current methods are 2 meters distance determines our existence. That's a saying from Dr. John Campbell. That's a way of passing the message of social distancing, and social distancing and lockdown has been largely our major tool thus far. Dr. John is wonderful. I think everyone should be watching his daily updates. He's a retired doctor from England, and I think he will probably be in line for a knighthood by the end of this, because he has been a voice of information and reason throughout this whole thing. He's been posting about this since late January, when he started realizing that we had a serious problem here, and everyone should take the time to watch his daily updates, because they're informative and they're well thought out and well presented. Asymptomatic spreading is a thing, and it's really the biggest part of the problem. What that means is that you can be sick and not know it. It means that you can be sick, not know it, and be spreading it. And especially here in Canada, this is a message that we have to get around a lot more than we have been. I don't know why this isn't the main focus of our public health care, or like our public health units, the basically the information arm of our medical system. Because we've known with this virus for a very long time that asymptomatic spread is possible. And we now have some serious numbers that, again, have existed for a long time. The data has now been reproduced multiple times by different labs and different studies, and it should be well known. This is from the NewScientist. This is from March 24th, so we're now over at the 30th. So sorry for me, guys. I didn't find this one till yesterday, so I'm behind the 8 ball a little bit too here. But it talks about the risk of asymptomatic spreading and shows some numbers that explain just how big that risk is. Now, this particular one was done from Columbia University in New York, using the Chinese data from the Wuhan break and other outbreaks, and other Chinese cities between January 10th and the 23rd. So the study concluded that 86% of cases were undocumented. So to put that in perspective, here in Canada, I'm in Ontario, as most of you guys are. Although I don't know if anyone else, this video will reach anyone else, but here in Ontario, basically to get a test, you have to have symptoms or be part of what's referred to as the high-risk population. This is largely because we don't have the testing units nor the testing capacity to be able to test at a wider range right now. The government's doing everything they can to get more testing capacity and more testing units. There's also multiple new types of tests that are coming down the pipeline from various different businesses, some of them here in the Ottawa region. But at the moment, we have a bottleneck. Because we have that bottleneck, we can't test every case. So we're not even trying on asymptomatic cases. And mild symptoms cases are being told to go home and self-isolate for 14 days. This is not ideal, but the situation is what it is, and we only have so many tests. We only have the ability to run so many tests, so we've kind of got to triage what we have. So 86% of cases here in Canada, again, not out of the realm of possibility that 86% of our cases aren't on that documented, confirmed list. Now, those people, the 86%, were only 55% as contagious as people with symptoms. However, because they're out and about and asymptomatic, or at home with mild symptoms and feel, I think it's over, I think I can go out, they ended up being 79% of further infections. So that's 80% of the spread problem was done through the asymptomatic cases and the very mild symptoms cases. Now, I'm not in any way saying that that will be the exact number here in Canada. I am saying this is a very strong argument towards the fact that the bulk of our spread will be from the mild symptoms cases and the asymptomatic cases. And this is a perfectly logical argument, given that the heavy, severe cases are going to be quarantined in hospital because they're attached to a machine. So we need to start thinking that the dangerous people are the people that are in no danger from the virus. Next thing that we have to look at is our whole 2 meters distance. This one's only from 2 days ago. This is MIT showing that droplets expelled from coughs and sneezes can move at speeds of 10 to 30 meters per second and can create a cloud that can span approximately 7 to 8 meters. So 2 meters is our current window. 7 to 8 meters is the virus's sneeze window. If we're only using space as our only method of dealing with this, we obviously aren't using enough space. And it should be obvious that if we were to use enough space, we simply don't have enough space. Canada's a big place, we've got a small population. However, stores are still built only so big. So we need new tactics. This one came out today. We will get to this point, even though I think it was also today, maybe yesterday, that our national public health official, Theresa Tam, was telling us all that no, face masks are a bad thing. I'm not going to yell about anyone right now. I will save the yelling till after we're through this mess, but right now, we all have to face this fact. Masks work. We all need to be wearing them, and we need to figure out a way to make that happen, even though we have a shortage. And there are ways. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a complex problem, and we're going to use a simple solution. Simple solution is a face mask. Now, we, like I said, have a shortage of face masks, but those are professionally made N95 face masks. Those need to go to hospitals because hospitals are the ones that need them the most. Retirement homes need them the most. Confined places where we don't want outbreaks to spread because the entire population is vulnerable. They need it the most. For all the rest of us, we get these cotton ones. We're going to make them at home. We're going to use our old t-shirts, our ripped sheets, our anything we can find, because we each need to have multiple ones of these, and I'm about to explain why. So online, you're going to find lots of plans like this, and lots of videos and instructions on how to turn the plans into something like this. If you have a sewing machine, you're going to be busy. If you don't have a sewing machine, call all your friends, find someone who does, and offer to give them as much fabric as you can. What good is a cotton mask? Number one, it's going to reduce the chances of asymptomatic spread. The way that this spreads is through our coughs and our sneezes. If we have a piece of cloth, no matter what that piece of cloth is, in front of our face when we cough or we sneeze, we're going to trap the bulk of that cough or sneeze in the cloth. Simple logic. Some might get out, that's true, but less will get out than if we never had it there in the first place. If we have multiples of these things in our pockets, we remove the one that we just sneezed into. We put it in a pocket or whatever to be washed later because these are cotton, they're washable. We put on a new one. Number two, and that's going to reduce, number one, it reduces asymptomatic spread. We have to worry about this now. So the sane way to deal with a virus that has asymptomatic spread is to always assume that you have it. You always assume that you have it and you don't want to spread it. Therefore, you have the rules for how you go about doing that. You know that the spread is through a cough or a sneeze. Therefore, wear a mask. Number two, it's going to reduce the chances of touching our face. Now, apparently, Theresa Tam disagrees with me on this. The argument that's currently being used by our government for whatever reason is that by having a mask on, you're going to be more likely to touch your face to rearrange the mask because it's not going to be comfortable. Number one, I agree on an N95 mask because things really aren't comfortable. I hate wearing them when I have to go into attics and stuff. However, if we're talking a cotton mask where we get to customize exactly what feels good over our face because we're making them ourselves, that is not an issue. We do know this will reduce the chance of touching our face because the zones of our face that are danger points are around our mouth, around our nose, and to a lesser degree around our eyes. The eyes, mask isn't going to do anything, fair enough. But the nose and the mouth, it basically nullifies the chance of us being able to get a finger near either of those places without consciously removing or moving the mask. Number 3, this one's slightly more complicated than the other two, but is still rather logical and rather simple. We're trying to reduce the viral load in the case that we do get infected. N95 masks are designed to stop anything from getting in, so they eliminate the viral load. We can't do that. We don't have enough of them. We need to send them to the people that need them. What we can do is reduce the viral load if we do happen to get infected. So here's an example. We're out shopping, we're doing whatever. Someone coughs or sneezes in our direction before they're able to get their hand or I guess elbow up in front of their face. We now know from MIT that those particles are going to be flying at us at high speeds. If we have nothing at all in front of our face and we breathe in, we're going to get 100% of the potential viral load of that infection. If we have anything at all in front of our face, right down to a Kleenex, we will have a reduced amount of viral load in that infection, because less of the virus is going to make it all the way down into our lungs. Part of it, at least, is going to get caught in that cloth or whatever that's in front of our face. Reason this is important is because viruses infect a cell, rapidly multiply within that cell, then burst out of the cell, heading out to do the same thing to other cells in the host. And then there's a small amount that manage to make their way out during coughs and sneezes and so on to find other hosts. If you have less viruses or less virus particles in the initial infection, then they're not going to grow at as fast a rate as if you got a whole ton of them, or 100% of the potential amount in the infection. We're all going to come to this conclusion eventually. I'm kind of sad that our medical professionals don't seem to see it, but eventually we will. We can be ahead of the curve on this. We can be ready when people need the masks. I'm actually doing a couple experiments now with taking apart some sediment filters for water to see if any of the fabrics used could possibly give us a leg up over just cotton itself. But there's all kinds of things we can be doing. We need to be doing them now. Anyone who can sew, anyone who's ever wanted to learn to sew, this is the great time to do it. Okay, so we need to start thinking of face masks like we think of pants. If you're not wearing them in public, you are doing it wrong. Now, I mentioned Peak Prosperity. I have found these guys lately during this whole pandemic thing. Everyone should watch Chris's daily updates. He's got a really good handle on this. He's obviously been doing YouTube videos for a very long time, so he's got a much better production quality than I do. He has been beating this drum almost as long as Dr. John, from what I can tell. Yeah, we need to spend time watching people like this. I know that we hold our time as precious. We especially hold our free time as precious. We need to spend some of that time very wisely right now, because we're in this situation whether we like it or not, so it's our duty to remain informed. We know that this situation is moving at a breakneck pace, which means that we pretty much know that by the time it filters through the regular systems of government, media, so on and so forth, it's a little bit behind the time already. We need to be out there searching for the information as it happens, because in an exponential growth situation, we run out of time really, really quick. Okay, we're not at war with a virus. We're at war with our own impulses. Okay, I mean this on a few different levels. There's those impulses of just wanting to touch our face. There's the impulses of wanting to give a friend a hug or a handshake or a pat on the back. There's also the bigger impulses of all of our instincts for how we deal with emergency situations involve grouping together for safety. They involve trying to give each other comfort. These are things that have always served us very well and may not always serve us very well in this particular instance. I'm going to give an example here to really get across what I'm talking about here, because all of our instincts have to be second guessed. Right now, like I mentioned, is the 30th of March. Recently, within the last day or two, for a number of weeks now, there's been a cruise ship that has been trying to find some place to dock. I guess probably about a week now that I think of it, everything's moving so fast. But they have confirmed cases on board. They have fatalities on board. And they have been trying to find some port that will let them in. They're currently in the process of trying to get to Florida, and either yesterday or the day before, they were docked waiting for permission to make it through the Panama Canal. During that docking, they were close to another cruise ship, which offered to the infected ship that they had available room and they were willing to take passengers who were not showing symptoms to safety, away from the infected ship, because a lot of people on the ship have been complaining rather loudly, for obvious reasons. Now, in any other situation than this, the fact that the ship did take people with no symptoms from the infected ship and put them on board their ship would seem like a humanitarian gesture. And although I'm sure that, or I strongly hope that anyone who is brought from one ship to the other is put into some sort of quarantine. What I fear is that they have not taken into account that there is asymptomatic spread of this virus. So there's no real way right now to guarantee that none of the people that were brought from the infected ship, which was for better or for worse, quarantined on the open sea, to a ship that, to the best of my knowledge, has not yet shown any sign of infection, nor would it be able to get any infection until it reached a port. So I sincerely hope this doesn't happen, but there is a non-zero chance now that we have moved the virus from one ship to another in an act of mercy and humanitarian love. So we need to rethink all of our impulses and all of our instincts. And no army ever sends their medics to the front lines alone. We are the infantry here. We, the public, all of us together. We allow the virus to spread through the choices we make. The actions that we take will decide just how much space we give the enemy. We have weapons. And they might be in any other war laughable weapons, but in this war, they are incredibly strong weapons. They're face masks made out of old t-shirts. They're knowledge being passed from one person to another. They're cleaning supplies, soap, hand sanitizer is incredibly useful in this particular instance. Rubbing alcohol, like, we have weapons here. We need to be informed, we need to inform one another, and we need to step up in this battle, because we're leaving our medics, who should be our last line of defense, they're that line between us and the grave, up on their own right now. And every time we choose to do something that we know in many ways we shouldn't, we're making it harder on them. So I guess this sums it up. There's only two sides here. There's humanity and there's the virus, and we really have to decide what team we're on, because every decision that we make right now goes one way or the other. If we decide to even so much as get in a yelling argument with a neighbor over a fence, we're playing for Team Virus, because we're increasing the chances that it's going to manage to spread from one place to another. If we get in a physical fight, it's even worse. If we decide to speed on the highway, we're playing for Team Virus, because we are doing something that we know is risky, that we know could result in the need for hospital time. We also know that the hospitals are going to be very, very busy, and we do not have the ability to give them more work right now. So all of our decisions have to align with the interests of Team Humanity, because if not, we're playing for Team Virus. So our mission now is face masks. Our mission now is knowledge. Our mission now is to spread the message out, so that when we get a handle on this, and it's not going to happen right away, and I have 2 more videos coming to explain why that's the fact. But once we get the handle on this, we need to be ready to get masks on everyone. We need to be ready to have everyone on side. So if you know how to sew, go find some plans and start to sew. If you don't know how to sew, go learn to sew, go find some plans, start to sew. If you learn how to sew and find out that you really cannot sew, try passing information around, try finding more information, try finding networks of people that you can share information with, because we all have different ways of searching out information, and the more we get together, the more we can start to sort out the good information from the bad. We need to work together on this. And above all, wash your hands. I'm going to leave links to everything that I've shown down in the bottom here. There's 2 more videos to come. They're going to go in order from bottom up. So next is going to be dealing largely with how we got here. The last one will give us a solid look at where we are at. And unfortunately, it's not as pretty a picture as we seem to be hoping for in official circles right now. So we decide which side we're on, we decide which role we'll play, we keep ourselves safe, and we watch out for one another. And kindness is something that we all need right now. Thank you very much for listening, guys. If this has been useful and helpful to you, please pass it on. I will try to get up videos as soon as I possibly can. I'll do my best to be shorter. Thanks.